And no disrespect to Mat Armstrong, I think he's doing amazing things. He's a great guy and all of that. Like, I also follow his videos, all good. But we just don't think it's safe.
At the center of this growing situation were two very different worlds slowly moving toward each other. The highly controlled leadership of brands like Bugatti and Ferrari, and the open, unpredictable world of a creator like Mat Armstrong. On one side, you have company executives and CEOs who are responsible for protecting brands worth billions of dollars, where every decision is carefully planned and every public image is controlled. On the other side, you have a YouTuber whose entire success comes from doing the exact opposite, showing everything openly, including mistakes, risks, and the raw reality of rebuilding damaged cars. This difference in approach is what made the situation so important for Bugatti and Ferrari leadership. Cars are not just machines. They are symbols of perfection, and that image must be protected at all costs. But for Mat Armstrong, cars are projects, challenges, and stories that deserve to be shared with the world. As his popularity grew, this difference became harder to ignore. Mat's journey started in a simple way, working on heavily damaged cars that most people would never attempt to fix. These were vehicles that insurance companies had already written off, meaning they were considered beyond repair. While others saw scrap, he saw potential. Step by step, he built his reputation by bringing these cars back to life, often using basic tools and a lot of patience. His videos were not polished or perfect in the beginning, but they were real, and that honesty attracted a loyal audience. Over time, his projects became bigger and more ambitious, moving into the world of high performance and luxury vehicles. This is where things started to overlap with the interests of major car brands. When Mat began working on cars from Ferrari, the attention around his channel increased significantly. These vehicles are known for their advanced engineering and strict control systems, and they are usually serviced only through official channels. One of the most important moments came when he took on the challenge of rebuilding a crashed Ferrari 296, a modern hybrid supercar that represents the latest technology from the company. The car was badly damaged and would not even start when he first received it. For most people, repairing such a vehicle without direct factory support would seem impossible, but Mat approached it with the same mindset that had defined his entire career. He carefully documented every step, from taking the car apart to sourcing parts and trying to understand its complex systems. This level of openness is very different from how brands like Ferrari prefer their cars to be handled. As the rebuild progressed, millions of people watched the process unfold online. For viewers, it was fascinating to see a car that usually exists in a world of luxury showrooms being repaired in a regular workshop. It made something rare feel accessible and understandable. However, from the perspective of company leadership, this kind of exposure raises serious questions. If the rebuild does not follow official procedures, or something goes wrong, it could affect how people see the brand. This creates a natural tension between the desire to share knowledge and the need to maintain control. What started as a simple rebuild project was now becoming part of a much larger discussion involving brand image, ownership, and the role of independent creators in a digital world where millions of people are watching every step as the rebuild of Ferrari 296 gained more and more attention online. The situation began to move beyond just a popular video and into something that raised serious concerns for companies like Ferrari and even reminded many people of earlier tensions involving Bugatti. From the outside, it might seem like free promotion when millions of viewers watch a detailed rebuild of such an advanced car, but from the perspective of company leadership, things are not that simple. These brands spend years building a very specific image based on precision, quality, and exclusivity. Every car that leaves their factory is meant to represent that standard. When someone outside their official network starts taking apart and rebuilding one of their vehicles on camera, it introduces a level of uncertainty that they cannot fully control. This is especially true for modern cars like the Ferrari 296, which rely heavily on advanced electronics, software systems, and hybrid technology. If something is repaired incorrectly or shown in a way that looks unsafe or incomplete, it could create doubts in the minds of viewers who may not understand the full context. Because of this, companies like Ferrari are known for being very careful when it comes to how their products are used and displayed publicly. Over the years, they have developed a reputation for actively protecting their brand identity, sometimes even taking legal action when they believe it is necessary. As the video from Mat Armstrong continued to spread and gain millions of views, discussion started to grow about whether this kind of content could lead to a response from the company. While many details of what happens behind the scenes are not always made public, it is widely understood that large corporations have legal teams that monitor how their brand is being used, especially in high-visibility situations. The idea is not always to stop people from enjoying the cars, but to make sure that the brand is represented in a way that matches their standards. In situations like this, communication between creators and companies can become complicated. A creator may believe they are simply sharing their work and passion, while a company may see it as an unapproved use of their product in a public setting. This difference in perspective can lead to misunderstandings and tension. In the case of Mat Armstrong, the growing scale of his content meant that any reaction from a brand like Ferrari would have a much larger impact than usual. His channel was no longer small or unnoticed. It had become a major platform with a global audience. This meant that even the possibility of legal pressure or restrictions became a serious topic of discussion within the car community. Many viewers began to ask important questions. Do car owners have complete freedom to repair and modify their vehicles however they want? Or do manufacturers still have some level of control after the car has been sold? These questions are not easy to answer, especially when they involve modern technology, intellectual property, and brand reputation. What made the situation even more interesting was the fact that it did not exist in isolation. There had already been similar discussions in the past involving other brands, and many people saw this as part of a larger pattern rather than a single event. As a result, what started as a rebuild video slowly turned into a wider debate about ownership, creativity, and the balance of power between individuals and large corporations in today's digital world. As the discussion around Mat Armstrong and Ferrari continued to grow, many people in the car community began to compare the situation with an earlier and very similar case involving Bugatti. This was not the first time a major luxury brand had faced questions about how much control it should have over its cars after they are sold. In the Bugatti case, a high-profile rebuild project had already shown how complicated things can become when independent creators step into a space that is usually controlled by official factory networks. Bugatti, like Ferrari, is known for producing extremely rare and expensive vehicles that require specialized knowledge, tools, and approval for repairs. When a damaged Bugatti was rebuilt outside of this official system and the entire process was shared online, it created a lot of attention, but also raised concerns within the company. The situation quickly turned into a debate about access to parts, technical information, and the right to repair such vehicles without direct factory involvement. Many people remember how difficult it became to source original parts and how strict the company appeared when it came to allowing independent work on their cars. While the full details of what happened behind the scenes were never completely made public, the outcome left a strong impression on the community. It suggested that even if someone legally owns a car, there may still be limitations when it comes to how it is repaired, modified, or even discussed in a public space. This idea made many creators more cautious, especially those working with high-end brands. However, over time, as more creators entered the space and audiences continued to grow, the issue did not disappear. Instead, it quietly remained in the background, waiting for another situation to bring it back into focus. That is why, when the Ferrari 296 rebuild started gaining attention, many people immediately connected it to the earlier Bugatti experience. They saw patterns that felt familiar: a popular creator, a complex rebuild, a massive audience, and a brand known for strict control over its image. The comparison made the situation feel bigger than just one project. It started to look like part of a broader trend where luxury car manufacturers and independent creators were moving toward a possible clash. For viewers, this raised important questions about fairness and consistency. If one brand limits access to parts or tries to control how a car is presented, does that set an example for others to follow? And if multiple companies begin to take the same approach, what does that mean for creators who rely on this type of content? These questions became even more relevant as online platforms continued to grow. Unlike traditional media, where companies have more control over how their product was shown, platforms like YouTube allow individuals to reach millions of people without needing approval from any brand. This shift in power has created new opportunities, but also new challenges. On one hand, creators can share knowledge, inspire audiences, and make complex topics easier to understand. On the other hand, companies may feel that their carefully built image is being shaped by people outside their control. The comparison between Ferrari and Bugatti highlights this ongoing tension. It shows that the issue is not about one brand or one creator, but about a changing environment where traditional rules are being tested. As more cases like this appear, the need for clear understanding and balance becomes more important than ever, because the outcome will likely affect not just a few individuals, but the entire future of automotive content creation, as the situation involving Mat Armstrong, Ferrari, and the earlier comparisons with Bugatti became more widely discussed. The reaction from the online community started to grow in a way that few people had expected. What initially seemed like a technical or legal issue slowly turned into a much larger public conversation. Viewers who had followed Mat Armstrong for years felt personally connected to his work. They had seen him start from small projects and gradually take on more complex challenges. And for many of them, his success represented what is possible through hard work and persistence. Because of this connection, any potential threat to his work or channel was not seen as just a business matter, but something more personal. As discussion spread across social media platforms, comment sections, and forums, more people began to share their opinions. Some supported the idea that companies like Ferrari have the right to protect their brand and ensure that their cars are handled according to strict standards. Others argue that once a car is legally purchased, the owner should have the freedom to repair, modify, and document it without interference. This difference in opinion created a wide and active debate, with strong arguments on both sides. At the same time, several well-known creators in the automotive space began to speak about the situation more openly. While not all of them were directly involved, many expressed concern about what such cases could mean for the future of their own work. If one creator faced restrictions or pressure, it raised the question of whether others could face similar challenges in the future. This sense of shared risk brought more attention to the issue and encouraged more people to take part in the conversation. In addition to individual comments and discussions, there were also signs of more organized responses. Online petitions, detailed video breakdowns, and long-form explanations started to appear, all trying to explore the situation from different angles. Some focus on legal aspects, discussing intellectual property and brand rights, while others focus on the creative side, highlighting the importance of independent content and open sharing of knowledge. What made this reaction especially important was the scale. Unlike smaller disputes that might stay within a limited group, this situation reached a global audience. People from different countries, backgrounds, and levels of knowledge about cars were all engaging with the topic. For many of them, it was not just about cars anymore. It was about larger ideas such as fairness, ownership, and the balance of power between individuals and large corporations. Another interesting aspect of the community response was how quickly information and opinions spread. A single video or post could reach millions of people in a very short time, creating momentum that is difficult for any company to ignore. This does not mean that public opinion always decides the outcome, but it does show that companies are now operating in an environment where their actions are constantly being observed and discussed. In the past, many of these situations might have stayed private or limited to industry insiders. Today, they become part of a global conversation almost immediately. As the reaction continued to build, it became clear that this was no longer just a case involving one creator and one company. It had turned into a wider discussion about how the modern digital world is changing the relationship between brands and the people who interact with their products in new and creative ways. As the situation continued to develop, the focus slowly began to shift from just one case involving Mat Armstrong and companies like Ferrari and Bugatti to a much larger and more important topic: the future of ownership and the idea often described as a right to repair. This concept is simple on the surface but becomes more complex when applied to modern technology. In basic terms, it asks whether a person who buys a product should have full freedom to fix, modify, and understand that product without needing permission from the original manufacturer. For older vehicles, this was usually not a problem. Cars were mostly mechanical, and skilled individuals could repair them using standard tools and knowledge. However, modern supercars are very different. They rely heavily on software systems, electronic controls, and specialized components that are often locked or restricted by the manufacturer. This means that even if someone has the skill to physically repair the car, they may still need access to software or official tools to complete the job properly. This is where the tension becomes clear. From a perspective of companies like Ferrari, these restrictions are necessary to ensure safety, quality, and consistency. They want to make sure that every car meets their standards, even after it leaves the factory. They also have to consider legal responsibility, as any failure in a repaired vehicle could raise serious concerns. On the other hand, creators and independent mechanics argue that these limitations reduce freedom and make it harder for people to fully own what they have purchased. They believe that knowledge should be shared and that skilled individuals should have the opportunity to work on these machines without unnecessary barriers. The case involving Mat Armstrong became a clear example of this debate in action. It showed how a single project could highlight the gap between traditional corporate control and modern digital creativity. For many viewers, it raised awareness about how complex ownership has become in today's world. Buying a car is no longer just about having the keys. It may also involve access to systems, permissions, and ongoing support from the manufacturer. This idea extends beyond cars and can be seen in many other industries where technology plays a major role. As discussions continued, some experts suggested that situations like this could lead to changes in how companies and creators interact in the future. There may be a need for clearer guidelines that balance the rights of manufacturers with the freedoms of owners and creators. Without such balance, similar conflicts are likely to happen again as more people share their work online and reach large audiences. At the same time, companies are also learning that public perception matters more than ever. Actions that may have once gone unnoticed can now quickly become widely discussed topics. This creates a new environment where decisions are not only evaluated based on legal or technical factors, but also on how they are viewed by the public. The outcome of cases like this may not be decided immediately, and in many situations, the full details may never be completely known. However, what is clear is that the conversation has already had an impact. It has encouraged people to think more deeply about ownership, creativity, and the role of large companies in a rapidly changing digital world. As technology continues to advance and platforms continue to grow, these questions will likely become even more important, shaping the future of how people interact with the products they use and the stories they choose to share. As the debate around ownership, creativity, and corporate control continue to grow, the situation involving Mat Armstrong, Ferrari, and the earlier comparisons with Bugatti started to reveal something deeper about how the modern internet has changed power dynamics between individuals and global brands. In the past, large companies had almost complete control over how their products were seen by the public. Marketing campaigns, official press releases, and carefully managed events were the main ways people learned about high-end cars. But now, with platforms like YouTube and social media, that control is no longer exclusive. A single creator can film a real-world experience with a product and instantly share it with millions of viewers around the world. This shift has created both opportunity and tension. On one hand, companies benefit from free exposure when creators showcase their products in real-world scenarios. On the other hand, they lose a degree of control over how their brand is presented, especially when content includes repairs, modifications, or situations that are outside official guidelines. In the case of Mat Armstrong, his content is built around transparency. He shows everything from damaged vehicles to full rebuilds, including mistakes, challenges, and unexpected problems along the way. This honesty is a major reason why his audience trusts him. However, from a corporate perspective, especially for companies like Ferrari, this level of openness can be uncomfortable. These brands invest heavily in maintaining a perfect image, where every car represents precision engineering and flawless design. When a damaged or heavily modified version of one of their vehicles appears online, it introduces a narrative that they cannot fully control. This is where the conflict becomes more than just technical or legal. It becomes philosophical. It raises questions about who has the right to tell the story of a product once it has been sold. Is it the company that created it, or the person who owns and uses it in real life? As discussions continue to cross online platforms, many people began to realize that this issue is not limited to just one creator or one brand. It reflects a broader change in how information spreads and how influence is shared in the digital age. The automotive world, in particular, has become a space where enthusiasts, creators, engineers, and manufacturers all interact in public view. This interaction can lead to collaboration, but it can also lead to disagreement when expectations do not align. Some industry observers suggest that situations like this could eventually encourage new forms of cooperation between companies and creators. For example, manufacturers might begin to offer more official support for independent rebuilds or provide clearer guidelines for content creation involving their products. Others believe that companies may continue to tighten control in order to protect their brand identity, especially in the luxury segment where exclusivity is a key part of the value. Whatever direction it takes, it is clear that the relationship between creators and corporations is evolving. The case involving Mat Armstrong has simply brought attention to changes that were already happening in the background. It has shown that in a world where content spreads instantly and opinions form quickly, no brand can operate in isolation anymore. Every decision can become part of a global conversation, and every video can influence how millions of people think about a product. This new reality is still developing, and both creators and companies are learning how to adapt. What remains certain is that the balance between control and freedom will continue to be tested as technology, media, and audience expectations keep evolving together. In the end, the situation involving Mat Armstrong, Ferrari, and the earlier comparisons with Bugatti is not just about one car, one video, or even one possible legal disagreement. It has become a symbol of a much larger shift happening in the modern world, where creativity, ownership, and corporate control are constantly colliding in new and unexpected ways. On one side, there are global companies that have spent decades building their reputation, investing billions into engineering, design, and branding. For them, protecting their image is not just about pride. It is also about maintaining trust, value, and long-term business stability. On the other side, there are independent creators like Mat Armstrong, who represent a new generation of storytelling. These creators do not rely on traditional media or official approval. Instead, they use digital platforms to share real experiences directly with audiences, often in ways that feel more personal, transparent, and relatable than corporate communication. This difference in approach is what makes the situation so complex. It is not simply a conflict between right and wrong, but a question perspective. For viewers, watching a damaged Ferrari being rebuilt step by step can be inspiring and educational. It shows engineering in action and makes a high-end machine feel more understandable. But for a brand like Ferrari, that same content can raise concerns about accuracy, presentation, and control. They may worry about how the final result is perceived, whether the process reflects their standards, and how it might influence public opinion about their products. This tension becomes even stronger when content reaches millions of people across the world in a short time. In the past, companies could carefully manage how their products were shown, but now they must share that space with independent voices who have just as much reach, if not more in some cases. This is why the situation has drawn so much attention. It represents a broader question about how modern industries will adapt to a world where information is no longer controlled from the top down. The automotive world is just one example, but similar challenges exist in many other industries where technology, branding, and user-generated content overlap. As discussions continue, it is clear that there is no simple solution. Companies will continue to protect their identity, while creators will continue to push the boundaries of what they can share and explore. Over time, this may lead to new forms of cooperation, clearer rules, or better understanding between both sides. Or it may continue to evolve as an ongoing tension that reflects the changing nature of digital media itself. What is certain, however, is that stories like this will keep appearing as long as people are passionate about creating, sharing, and rebuilding. In that sense, the situation is not just about conflict, but also about progress. It shows how technology has given individuals a powerful voice, while also challenging long-established systems to rethink how they operate in a world that is more open, connected, and fast-moving than ever before. In the end, the entire discussion around Mat Armstrong, Ferrari, and Bugatti shows something very important about today's digital world. It is not just about cars anymore, and it is not only about one creator or one company. It is about how power, influence, and storytelling have changed in the age of the internet. A few decades ago, only large companies controlled the story. They decided how a car should be seen, how it should be marketed, and how it should be understood by the public. But today, that control is no longer